when you have more money in the bank or more to spend, then you're going to feel more relaxed typically. But what's interesting is I often talk to women and they say, I'm making more money than I've ever made, but I still feel stressed about money all the time. Have you ever had that experience? Like it almost doesn't seem to matter how much you make. Of course, in one sense, there's more relaxation, but in another sense, you still feel stressed, you still feel anxious, or whatever those normal feelings are around money.
Welcome to The Way of the Muse, a podcast for women who want to create richness in every area of their lives, from business and career to lifestyle, relationships, family, purpose, and fulfillment. I'm Gigi Sage.
And I'm Makena Sage. We're a mother-daughter coaching team, and combined, we've spent over 4 decades helping people create their best and most fully expressed lives. If you're ready to step into your bigger dreams with ease, fun, and flow, you're in the right place. Let's get into the episode.
Welcome to the money episode. I'm sure this is probably the first of many because money is a topic I love to talk about. I'm Makena Sage, and today I'm doing a solo episode. Gigi will be coming to you soon with a solo episode of her own. And I wanted to talk about money because it's a topic that comes up a lot in our coaching and in conversations. And I was just having this conversation with a woman at one of my local events. I host events in San Diego and sometimes in Austin called Women Empowering Women. And they're just gatherings of women connecting, basically making new connections with growth-minded, open-hearted women. And while I was there, this topic came up with one of the women, and it came up in a coaching session recently. And so I thought, I need to make an episode about this. And so we're calling today the money episode, Upgrade Your Money Mindset so that you can make and receive more money. And that's an important distinction right there, which is we're not just going to talk about making money, which is one thing that involves effort, that involves going out there. That's at least what the word make seems to imply, but also receiving, because we can also receive money and prosperity in many different forms. And it doesn't always have to be connected to effort. And this was a big learning for me over the years. I'm going to share many learnings I've had. So if you're in a place where, you've really worked on your money mindset, then this is hopefully going to give you even some more tools to continue to grow and expand in this area. And if this is something brand new to you and you have no idea what I'm talking about by money mindset, then this is going to be a great introduction for you. Because have you ever noticed that, let's say that you have had times in your life where you've been more tight with money, and then times where money's been more plentiful, and how has the feeling been different? So, of course, when you have more money in the bank or more to spend, then you're going to feel more relaxed typically. But what's interesting is I often talk to women and they say, I'm making more money than I've ever made, but I still feel stressed about money all the time. Have you ever had that experience? Like it almost doesn't seem to matter how much you make. Of course, in one sense, there's more relaxation, but in another sense, you still feel stressed, you still feel anxious, or whatever those normal feelings are around money. Or when you go to pay your bills, you feel restricted and, it doesn't feel good to kind of be paying them, or you look at your credit card bill. So this is money mindset. And this is something that's been popularized in the last, decade or so, maybe longer. And it's a really powerful approach or way of thinking about money because money is neutral. Money is essentially neutral. It actually doesn't exist other than the fact that we make it exist, right? Originally, it started out, we bartered, and then we developed coins, right? Or coins and bills and things like this. And we started to, use them to assign them a value and say, I'm going to give this to you and it's going to have value. So we made up the value because what are those little pieces of paper really worth and the coin's really worth. Maybe they started out back in the olden days, it was gold or silver or whatever, and there was some worth to it. But even then, we assigned that worth to it. So money is really essentially made up. And especially these days when we're talking about numbers on a screen, right? And the computer, and we're saying like that number means something. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. So another word for money is currency. Currency. And currency is like the word current, like a current of energy. And so that's another way you can really think about this, is that money it's a currency. It's a current of energy. And the energy that you bring to your money has an impact. Now, this is going to sound a little woo, a little out there for some of you. And that's okay. Hopefully, most of you listening to this podcast, maybe you are a little woo like I am. But even if you're not, then just bear with me. And even if you just want to think about this from a mindset perspective, our subconscious mind is powerful, and it, is 95% of our brains or something like that. So even if you just want to think about this as programming your subconscious mind to help you create a better result, then you can take the woo completely out of it and think of this more scientifically. But I like to think in terms of both science, of course, but also energy, because that is really the frame that I come from. So money is energy, it is currency, and its value is made up, but we assign so much meaning to it. Like money is one of the most charged words and topics there is. I would say it's probably money, God, and sex. 3 of the most charged words in the English language. And we're not going to go down the road of those other ones right now, but we are going to talk a lot in this episode about money, because I am someone that I have a passion for this topic. And it comes from, well, I've just always enjoyed money from a young age. I've enjoyed the fun and the freedom and the ability to buy things. But also I went through a lot around money. And we've talked about this in previous episodes, so I won't go deeply into my story here. But in my teens, we went through a really difficult time on many different levels, with both my parents getting sick and a lot of moves and financial ups and downs. And so in that, we went through some times where we struggled financially, and it was really, really difficult. And I remember feeling the stress of that, at 14, 15, 16, these pivotal ages as I was developing into adulthood. And I made a decision at a very young age. I didn't consciously make this decision, but looking back, I'm very clear that I made a decision that I never wanted to struggle financially again. And so that became my driving force in so much of what I did for a lot of my life, really, and my career especially. I became very hardworking, very focused and determined. I decided to go to business school. I studied international business. Originally, I was more interested in something like psychology or communications or writing. But I went with my head over my heart, and I said, well, this is going to make me more money. So I'm going to do this. And, it was a great choice in many ways. But looking back, part of me does wish that I had really gone with what my heart and my soul had wanted, although it's all perfect in the overall scheme of my journey. But in this, I was making these decisions from a place of financial fear, because I didn't have a lot. We didn't have a lot in those days. And we had times where we had experienced a lot of prosperity, and we did again, and I have again. But at that time, I remember going off to school. I could barely afford to apply for schools, first of all. And then I, went off and I had $200 my first semester to go. I was basically paying for school with student loans and working a couple of jobs on campus, and mostly student loans and grants. And so when I went to school, I, had to scrimp and save and work some side jobs. And then I had $200 to spend to go get clothes my freshman year to go through a Rhode Island winter. And mind you, I lived in Texas at the time. I did not have a big coat, gloves, any of these things. And so I took the $15 Peter Pan bus to New York City, and I visited my sister who lived there in Brooklyn, and she took me out and we went to Forever 21 and we went to some of those stands on the streets, and we got me a hat and we got me some scarves and gloves and a cheap coat. And that was how I made it through my first Rhode Island winter. And so just to illustrate, I was never in a position of not being able to eat, thankfully. And there are many people who struggled far more than I ever have. But I did really, not have extra in those days. And here I was going to school with people who had, were driving fancy cars and their parents were paying for everything and they were going on amazing trips. And it was a really stark difference in our realities. So all of this to say, I went through these years of feeling really stretched financially. In fact, my sophomore year, they increased the tuition at my school, and I actually couldn't cover it with my grants and with my loans. And I couldn't figure out a way to get more loans because I had already maxed out what I could get approved for. And so I almost gave up and didn't go back to school. There's a whole story to this, but my mom really stepped in and helped me to have the courage to appeal to the school. And I ended up going through a whole process that first they told me they would not, give me any more aid. I went through a whole process. I was a really strong student, and eventually they did give me more and I was able to stay. So these were days of like hustling to a large degree. And when I got out of school, I, got a decent job. I was very fortunate in that sense. Took a job for the first 6 months out of college. And so that like covered my bases, but I almost immediately had $1,000 a month in student loans that I had to start paying off because I had $60,000 in student loans, and it came out to, I don't know, $700, $800, $900 a month that I was paying at that time with all the interest and everything. So on top of my living expenses and moving out to California, I was immediately put in this position of I've got to earn at a high level. And so I'm sharing these stories because I want you to understand that the place I was coming from was hustle, survival, and like hard work is the way to make money. And money means you survive, and you're not just surviving, but maybe you can pay for some things and not feel like you're just scrimping by. And so I had this wound upness in me. I had no safety net, and, nothing to fall back on here. So in that, this survival energy really came into building my first business. So when I decided after 6 months that I didn't think I was really cut out for a job, and I thought, well, I'm just going to try freelancing and see if, that will go somewhere. I started my first business out of that, which was my online marketing and copywriting business in late 2012. And I worked a lot because I had a lot of expenses and because I had this drive in me. I worked so hard, and I was able to build that business to 6 figures fairly quickly. But 6 figures in California with $1,000 a month in student loans. And, I wasn't living lavishly by any means. I didn't even have a car for the first year plus that I lived here. And, I was sharing an apartment with my boyfriend at the time and 2 other guys for a long time, eventually moved into a tiny apartment. So again, it wasn't lavish living. I had, student loans. I had tons of dental work I had to go back and do. But I did start to make more money, and there was a kind of relief in that. But it was interesting because even as my numbers went up, even as I started making 6 figures and then more than 6 figures, I still felt incredibly stressed about money. And I still had, I still was spending everything I was making. And there was never a surplus. It felt like it was always month to month and scrimping by. And, my lifestyle got better. I was able to take better care of myself, which was huge, to take care of my physical body and, to have experiences and travel a little bit and do some of these things. But I still had this feeling in me of stress and survival. And so I share all this because maybe you relate to some part of my story, or maybe you don't, but it is really powerful. One of the first exercises I would really recommend around money mindset is to go back and write your money story. Like, look back at your life and ask yourself, what what was modeled to me when I was young around money? Like, what were the messages that I received? So you can really think about that from when you were a kid. If I think about, my teens or some of those years, it was like there were times of feast and famine. It was times of like things are going great, and then times of things being really challenging because of many of the things that we went through. And I can even go further back into my childhood and look at other experiences around money and what those meant to me and what I made them mean. And so you might see that, oh, your dad said this around money, or your mom said this, or these were the messages that you received. And what were the positive messages and what were the negative ones? What did you see modeled that was a good thing, you think? And what did you see modeled that maybe is holding you back in some way? So, and it can be what was modeled to you by your parents, by other people. It could be what you experienced in your early years of being an adult, whatever that is. If you just go back and kind of write, or at least think through, what was my money experience? What is my money story that brought me to where I am today? And that can be really, really powerful. So for me, it was this kind of, feast and famine when I was young, a lot of financial difficulties, and then going into this phase of survival and really just kind of getting by, and then starting to what some people would call thrive with 6 figures plus, but still feeling inside like I was surviving. And so this was true for many years. And I had this kind of wound up energy inside of me around money. And then I started to examine that. I started to really dive into my personal development journey, even though I'd grown up in personal development in my childhood, and my mom's been doing this work for nearly 40 years now. Even though I'd grown up around that, money mindset wasn't really a part of that conversation when I was young. She did other kinds of things: leadership, communication, business, relationship. So there were many coaching, there were many topics I was exposed to, but money mindset wasn't really one of them. I don't even know if it existed back in those days. And so as I got into my 20s and I was running my business and I was in Southern California and being exposed to personal development as it is more today, I started to examine my relationship to money. And I'll never forget, one of my first experiences of this was attending I think it was a one day or a weekend workshop kind of thing. And this woman who was leading it said these words. She said, if money were your lover, well, the exact words she said were, if money were your lover, would it want to sleep with you? Which is one way of putting it. But I really shifted that to, if money were your lover, what would your relationship be like? That's essentially what she was saying. What's your relationship like? If you imagine money was a person and you were in a relationship with that person, what is that dynamic like right now? Let me stop and think about that. Do you have a good relationship? Is it pretty strained? Are you always complaining about it? Are you, do you never want to look at it? And so you're avoiding? I mean, really, if I ask most people this question, they're like, oh my goodness, we have a terrible relationship, right? Even if they have a lot of money, there's so many patterns we have wound up in this that we avoided, or whatever this might be for you. So if money were your lover, or if you were in a relationship with your money, how would that relationship be? What is the quality of that relationship right now? This is going to shine a big light on things, most likely for many of you. So as I asked myself this question, I saw all these different ways that I was, always stressed around money, and I always spent it all. I never even took the time to get to know it before it went right out the door again. And I, didn't really spend quality time with my money. I tried to just do the minimum, pay my bills, and not think about it. And so many different things in the way that I interacted with money. But the main thing I saw was that my overall quality of my relationship with money was one of stress. So this really introduced this idea of money as energy, or money as a relationship, to me. And then I continued to explore this over time. And I thought, well, how do I start to shift my relationship to money? And I've done a lot of different courses and read a lot of different books. And a couple that I would recommend, I would say there's a book called Happy Money by Ken Honda. And then there's a book, my personal favorite is a book called Rich as Fuck by Amanda Francis. And her work, I think, is some of the best out there on money mindset. And so these are books where it'll really walk you through a lot of exercises. Now, some people don't resonate with Amanda, and I totally get that. Everybody's got a different flavor. There's also a book called, what is it called? You Are a Badass at Making Money, I believe, by Jen Sincero. And so usually I recommend one of those two, You Are a Badass at Making Money or Rich as Fuck, to most of my clients and friends. Happy Money is a great one for just like learning your energy around money and shifting that energy. But if you really want to dive deeper into some of the journaling exercises and reflections and different ways of relating to your money, then those other two books are really great. And I would say You Are a Badass at Making Money is more for someone who, well, maybe you just go read a little bit online about both women and, you know, read a little excerpt from their books or see if they have some videos online or something like that and see who you resonate with, because they're very different flavors, very different energies, but a similar result. So my personal favorite, as I mentioned, is Amanda Francis, but there's a lot of great people out there. And so these kinds of books, these kinds of things, I started diving into them. I did a lot of these journaling exercises. I looked at my relationship with money. And then I started treating it differently. And one thing I did was money dates. So I've shared this with a lot of my clients, and it really has shifted things for them, which is instead of avoiding your money, what if you made it a date with yourself and you actually put it on the calendar once a month or twice a month or however often, that you sit down for an hour and a half, and if you want, you can pour yourself a glass of wine or have a cup of tea and light a candle and make it a nice environment and actually bring a positive energy to your money. Meaning, if you're going to sit down, you're going to look at what you owe on your credit cards, or you're going to pay bills, or you're going to look at your investments, your savings, whatever that might be, then you come to that with a spirit of fun and gratitude. So really feeling, you might even before you open any of your accounts, close your eyes, put your hands on your heart, and feel the gratitude of like, wow, the money that you do have and the opportunities you do have, and what a blessing that is. I recently did an exercise, just kind of self-prompted, which was I wrote down all the ways that I am prosperous. And I've really been enjoying this word prosperous lately. In fact, I'm going to ask ChatGPT here while we're on, what's the difference between the word prosperous versus abundant? Prosperous typically refers to a state of success, wealth, or financial well-being. It implies thriving, flourishing, or being successful, particularly in material terms. And so the word prosperous often has a financial connotation, whereas abundance is a large quantity or plentiful supply of something. It implies having more than enough of something, whether it's resources, opportunities, love, or happiness. It does not inherently imply financial success. So in that, I love the word abundance. And this is the word you hear used most often connected to money, I feel, these days. And abundance on its own can be an abundance of anything. It can be an abundance of love, an abundance of pain. I mean, truly, it can be an abundance of anything, but typically it's used in a positive way. So I love the word abundance. I still use it. But when I'm talking about money, I've really shifted to using the word prosperous. And I believe it was my husband, Sonny, I want to give him credit for this one, who really found this kind of fine-tuned detail here and shared it with me, because I do want to talk about financial prosperity specifically sometimes. It's not that I don't want abundance and great things in other areas, but I don't want to shy away from my money. I don't want to shy away from money in general. I actually want to invite it. I want to have a great relationship with it. I do have a great relationship with it these days. And so that is something you might take on if it suits you, is the word prosperous. And so money dates is really sitting down and bringing this energy of gratitude. And so I wrote this list of all the ways in which I am prosperous. And eventually I did write also other ways in which I'm abundant in love and other things, but I started with financial prosperity. You know, if you live in a house that you love, whether you own it or rent it, like that's a way in which you're prosperous. If you drive a car, if you can put enough food on the table, whatever that is for you, that is prosperity. If you have a job, if you have a business, if you have, any support from anywhere financially, if your partner helps provide, and maybe you don't have any of that, and that's okay. I often hear people say, well, I don't have any of that support. My partner is not providing, or I didn't have a family that supported me. And nor did I for the longest time. And not that my parents didn't want to, but, again, we went through challenges. There were different phases. There were times in which they were able to support much more. But for the most part, in those pivotal years, I was on my own. And so in that, it's, really to not take whatever that story is, like, oh, I didn't have that support or whatever. That's true, but it's what you make of it. Right? It's what you make of it. And I've made so much of that. And in fact, I look back now and I've really rewritten my story to one of, wow, I'm so grateful, truly, that I went through all of that. It was hard. I wouldn't want to do it again, but it actually made me into the person that I am today. I would not have been nearly as driven, as focused, as, hardworking. And I've gotten to unwind certain things about that because it went too far to that end of the spectrum. But on the other hand, like, I know people who were given a lot when they were growing up, and they struggled with drive, and they struggled with determination and follow through. And I have never struggled with any of those things. And I'm a great, creator. I'm able to go out there and create things in the world and make them happen. And that's given me a huge amount of confidence. And so my story, as challenging as aspects of it were, I see how it made me into the person I am today, and I am proud of that person. And so even in that, you can rewrite your story. Whatever area in your money story you feel like a victim, you can start to turn it around. If you haven't already, you can start to turn it around now. And, really 3 years from now, 5 years from now, be telling a very different story about why that made you who you are today, and how that inspired you, and what you're doing that's different. And so it's all in how you look at it. So writing all the ways that you're prosperous, but coming back to the money date is just, even if this is just to sit down and pay your bills, or, look at your numbers, whatever that is, once or twice a month, is making it fun, bringing an energy to it that is more lighthearted, getting into a space of gratitude before you do it, and looking maybe even at the ways you're prosperous. Maybe you write that list and you read it every time before you sit down to look at your bills, is to first look at the ways in which you do have prosperity. And then to, look at also the realities of your bills, or whatever it might be. And then the gratitude energy, and this is something I got from Ken Honda from the Happy Money book, is saying thank you. So when you pay your bills, actually sitting down and saying thank you. Like, thank you to these service providers for doing this for me, or thank you that I got to buy these products or have these experiences. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you that this is going out and blessing other people's families. It's not just companies that yes, we think about, these companies and we're paying them all this money, but there's people behind those companies. There are human beings. There are, again, families. There are people that are being positively impacted by you sending this money out into the world. Why not focus on that aspect of it, right? And really get yourself into a different mindset, because that is a better energy to be bringing to your money. And really starting to think of yourself, something I came to a while ago, was starting to think of yourself as a great steward of money. A lot of times we think, I want more money, and, we start making more money, but then we have the same money habits, whatever they are. If you spend it all, or if you always have debt, or whatever that might be. And by the way, I have nothing against debt. I've had debt for most of my life to some degree or another, and at different times more, and at different times much, much less. But there's different ways that you can utilize debt and be smart about it. And so I'm not about debt shaming or any of that. But I am about having awareness and, again, ownership, and making those choices consciously and not just unconsciously. So if you have debt, don't worry about it. You can absolutely turn that around. And there's also, again, times where for many people, you might choose to take on debt consciously to grow your business, or to carry you through a difficult time, or whatever that might be. So in that, becoming a great steward of money is, if, this is why most people, they say when they win the lottery, then they rarely keep it, right? They spend it all and within a couple of years it's gone, is because they haven't developed the skill set of becoming a great steward of money. They have the same money habits that they've always had. And so I started to think about it as, well, if I want more money, if I want more prosperity, and I'm really committed to being a wealthy woman, which is one of my commitments in this lifetime. It's something that I have always desired. It feels very true for me. And I know that I'll do a lot of good with that wealth. And this is, again, money mindset is owning that and not making money bad or thinking I'm bad because I want money, is actually really going, of course, there are other things that are important in life. I prioritize my family, my relationship, my health, so many things. I prioritize them, and I have a rich life in so many areas. And this is when we work with our clients, we are committed to helping them have not only financial prosperity, if that's something they desire, or they're growing a business and that's why they're coming into work with us, business, a project, a career. That's often why people come in to work with us. And we are committed to that and we help them do that, but not at the expense of other areas of their life. And it doesn't have to be at the expense of other areas of your life. That's the thing, is that people think, oh, it's one or the other. You have to sacrifice your family life if you want to have money, or you have to sacrifice the quality of your relationship if you want to have money, or whatever those stories are. And the reality is that's just not true. You can have richness in many areas of your life. I'd venture to say in all the areas of your life. And yes, it's going to ebb and flow and there's going to be ups and downs, but you can have a rich life in many different areas. So I'm not saying money just for the sake of money. And I'm not saying money when you exclude all of the other areas or, sacrifice in them. That's not what we're talking about here. It is and. Right? Instead of either or, it is the and. And so really creating prosperity, which is that flow of money, and also wealth, which is building money, keeping money, and really expanding money over time. And so I am committed to all of the above, and I really own that. And I think that is a huge evolution. It's taken me time to come to this place where I can say that with confidence and know that some people aren't going to like that. And some people are going to be judgmental of that and say, oh, well, she's all about the money or whatever that might be. And those are some of the fears that we have when it comes to really upgrading our money mindset and owning some of these desires, is that, oh, well, other people are going to judge me or other people are going to tear me down. And that may very well be true. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me anyway. It's up to you to decide that for you. But to me, what matters is living authentically and living in my truth. And my truth is I am all about living a rich life in all areas. I am all about service. I am all about women leading incredible lives, and men and people of all genders. And I'm also all about wealth and prosperity and money are all tools. They're all great gifts that can allow us to do that more and more and more. One of the conversations I was having the other day was about charging what you're worth, which I don't believe you can charge what you're worth because your worth is infinite. There is no such thing. But I do believe in worthiness. I believe in confidence. I believe in being well compensated for sharing your gifts or providing a service or whatever it is that you do. So in that, if you are hesitating to own your value and to charge your worth, then these are, again, money mindset pieces that you really want to start to look at. So when it comes to owning your worth, it's really important that you can care for yourself. It's really important that you provided for, in the sense that then you can show up for other people in your life. And I'm always astonished that people think, well, I just want to give back. I just want to be of service. And then they charge pennies or they charge nothing. They work for free in whatever it is that they're doing. And then they're struggling. They're constantly thinking about money. They're in this desperate energy because they can barely pay their bills, or they're having to work a job full time while they're doing this other thing because they're too afraid to charge over here. And I get all of that. It is scary to to ask for money, to be compensated in exchange for something you're providing, especially when you're a service provider, or especially if it's something that's close to your heart and soul. And it feels like, oh, they're paying you for you in some way. But the truth is they're not. They're paying you for a service if you are a service provider. And I'm just using this as an example. And I'm always astonished that people think somehow that is being more of service to people. And my question is, like, how many people are you actually helping when you're doing that? And what is the quality of that support, right? So if you are, let's say, coaching, let's use that as an example, and you're coaching a bunch of people for free, or you have a couple people that you're coaching for free, and then you're working this full-time job and you're stressed about money and you don't see any way to make the leap, or you're working a part-time job and you have people that are paying you not very much. And then, like, what's the quality of that support that you're able to provide when you're in that energy versus, and how many people are you serving truly? Versus, what if you really learned how to get out there, share what you're doing, market yourself, yes, to also sell. And people say selling is a bad word, but they're thinking used car salesman. What about the best selling experience you've ever had, where you walked into an amazing luxury boutique, or you bought your first home and it was this incredible experience and you felt so good the whole time? Like, that's selling too. You were sold something there, but it was a great experience. And so selling, again, is a neutral thing. It can be. It's all about the energy that someone brings to it. And so when you learn these skills and you go out there and you own your value and you charge what's a great, price that fits the value that you're offering and also fits for other people, then think about how you're able to show up. If you were making six figures or multiple six figures or whatever it is, the number that you want to make, if you were making that, doing the work that you do, being really well compensated, how would you show up differently for your clients? How would you show up differently for your family and your loved ones? From a place of surplus, from a place of overflow. Just tune in right now to your body and your energy and notice, how does this feel different? And do you think you could be of greater service from that energy, from that place? And I'm guessing the answer is yes. And if that's true, then what is it that has us think that it's of greater service to not charge people? Okay, yeah, maybe one or two people, you're able to help them, but also people value what they invest in. And you can always have free things you offer and sliding scale for certain things and whatever, but you also need to really learn to stand in the value of what you're providing. And women, especially in my experience, have so much stuff about this. So I could do 10 episodes on the topic of owning your worth and charging prices that align with that, and the art of authentic sales. And these are all things I teach in some of our courses. For example, my Simplified Business Bootcamp program, we go deeply into money mindset and the art of authentic sales and how to make invitations in such a way that for the right clients, it's a hell yes. And if it is a hell yes, then it's a mutual, you both are all in, and then you provide an amazing value and you are well provided for and they are well provided for. So these are all things that I teach, and I can't go, we're almost at the end of this episode. I can't go deeper into here, but just know that this is available. And the other resource I do want to offer that is free is the self-doubt switch. If you haven't gotten that resource yet, it is a freebie that we offer, and it is around self-doubt, which is related to owning your worth. And so that URL, if you want to grab that, it's a process that I lead you through, a PDF and then a visualization process, a short one. And it is wayofthemuse.com/doubt, which is DOUBT, doubt. So wayofthemuse.com/doubt. And those are a couple of, I've given you books at the beginning of this episode. I'm giving you this freebie here. And then if you are interested in diving much deeper, if you're someone that you are building a business or you have a dream business you've wanted to start, it doesn't need to be coaching specifically, but typically most of the people that work with us are, if they are coming in for something like the Simplified Business Bootcamp, then they are usually doing a service of some kind. So service-based entrepreneurs. Although I will say that in our masterminds and other programs, we have people in jobs, we have people in all kinds of careers. So just wanted to offer all of those as resources to you if you want to go much deeper into some of these topics. But lastly, I just want to talk about receiving. And so receiving is this energy of, it doesn't all have to come down to hard work. And this was a big one for me to learn. That, unwinding hard work from money, because sometimes they are connected, but often they are. And I like to use the example of if hard work and money were directly, like if one created the other, then the hardest working people in the world would be the richest people in the world. And is that true? It's not, right? Hardest working people are not necessarily the richest people in the world. And so we want to untangle these two ideas. Now, do you need to be able to put in energy and effort and focus and some degree of work? Of course. But hard work does not equal money. If it did, we'd have a very different world. It'd be set up very differently. So instead, there's so much more to this. It's the energy you have with money. Of course, it's the opportunities we're provided, but also it's, ingenuity and getting out there and being strategic. There's many different things that correlate or that correspond to the money you create. But what I want to speak to here specifically is receiving. And receiving is an energy of, it's like this. When someone gives you a gift, if I handed you a gift right now, I gave this beautifully wrapped box with a big bow on it and handed it to you. Would you feel like a full open energy in your body? Like, oh my gosh, thank you. Like delight for this unexpected gift and just be able to take it in fully and say thank you and receive it? Or would there be some part of you that would be like, oh my gosh, I barely even know this person. Why is she giving me this gift? What is this about? Do I even deserve this? Oh, you shouldn't have. Do you ever say something like that? You shouldn't have. Oh, I don't know. I can't accept this. All of that is deflecting. It's all not fully receiving. Notice like there's an energetic block there, or a little bit of a blocked energy, instead of this open, like receiving and thank you. So receiving is a very important part of money mindset and of the energetics of money, because when money flows in, just like anything, it needs to have an open space to be received. You need to be open to receiving money. Otherwise, and even if we bring this to the subconscious mind, if you're not fully open to receiving money, you're going to have blind spots. You're not even going to see opportunities because your mind is going to not even show them to you, because this is the way our mind works. It filters out anything it thinks is not aligned with our perspectives or our views or what we want. And so even if we're saying we want money, if we have blocks around receiving, we're not going to receive to the degree that we are capable of. We're not going to see those opportunities. We're not going to fully receive when other people want to give to us, et cetera, or when God or the universe wants to give to us. And so notice the feelings you have around receiving, whether it's receiving a compliment, receiving a gift, receiving financial support. Do you receive fully? And it could even be time, people wanting to give you time or whatever it is. Can you receive that fully and take it in and just be like, thank you? Or is there some stuff in there? And I have to say that I struggled with receiving for a long time, and I have become a master receiver. I love to receive. Believe me, if you ever come and you give me a gift, I will be just like, oh my gosh, thank you, and receive it fully and without any stuff about you shouldn't have or any weirdness in me. I will take that gift and I will love it, and I will love you, and I will love just everything about it, right? And I won't make it mean that I need to give you something in return. Now, if I ever see something for you and I feel inspired to give it to you and I give it to you, I hope you'll do the same. So this is this free flow of receiving. And the more you can build the muscle of receiving, which is just a matter of practice and it's a matter of intention. And, again, doing the money mindset exercises and so on, diving deeper into this, the more you can receive openly and without any of that stuff gunking up the works, the more you will receive. And I will tell you now to close out this episode that I have come to this space with money. First, I came to trust, where I let go of the fear, and that took time, and that took a lot of this mindset stuff we're talking about here. And it took, starting to earn at a higher level and having enough times where God, the universe came through and I didn't fall flat on my face and I made it through and I survived and I even thrived. It took a lot of that for me to get to that place, and a lot of me becoming a better steward of money, which, by the way, I don't know if I ever finished out that thought, but all that thought was to say is that whatever your relationship to money is now, if you add more money, it's just going to be the same relationship. And so practice how you think you want to be when you have millions of dollars. Practice that now. That was that thought around being a great steward of money. So be the person that you think you're going to be, that you want to be, that you desire to be when you have millions of dollars, right? Start to practice that version of you now. And then as you add more money, then it will be more of what you actually desire it to be, what you thought it would be, and not like, oh, wait, there's money, but nothing else has really changed. So I have come to I came to this place first of trust, like, okay, I'm going to be okay. I don't need to be in stress all the time. I don't need to be in fear all the time. And then it really became more of an expansive feeling. And I have this peace around money. And then the receiving piece is like more and more and more over the years. I feel like prosperity streaming in from all directions. I feel even when there are times where things are tighter or up and down or whatever it might be, it doesn't matter, because I have this foundation of peace with money and of knowing that I am provided for, and of feeling prosperous and knowing that more is coming and being fully open to receive that and receiving from many different places. And it is this beautiful place to sit. And so I just wanted to give you a preview of that, because knowing where I came from, the story I told you at the beginning of this episode, to where I am now, hopefully that inspires you and gives you some maybe hope or some beacon of what's ahead for you. And I'm always available. If you have questions, you can reach out to me via email or on social media. On email, I'm Makena, Makena, at wayofthemuse.com. You can find me on Instagram at Makena Sage or any of the platforms. And feel free to reach out to me if you have questions, or you want to explore something here, or if you are curious about any of our programs. We'll link some of those in the episode notes. And we have all kinds of things at all different levels, anywhere from free to, a much higher investment, depending on what it is that you are desiring, how much support. And that's the other thing, is that if you are a service provider, you are someone who is, let's say it's coaching or offering some other kind of service, is that no, you don't want to go out and do that for free all the time, because you need to be provided for. But the more that we've made, the more our business has generated, the more, we've thrived, the more we've been able to also provide free things and free resources so that people can get value at every level. And when they're ready, and if they're ready, they can take the next step to invest in something or invest in themselves at a higher level. So that is always an option, is you can do that, but you need to have your needs met first. So this was an 45-minute plus ramble, I feel, because I wanted to fit so much in here. And this is just the beginning. It's like opening a, Pandora's box of so many things that we could talk about around money. I am going to be doing some other episodes around business and sales and things like that in the months to come. If there's any topics you want to hear in particular, please reach out to us at any time. You can email me at that same email address, Makena at wayofthemuse, and say, these are some topics I'd love to hear you talk about. And then go on our website, because we have all kinds of freebies on there and paid programs and support at all different levels. So I hope this was valuable for you and look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Bye-bye. If you enjoyed this episode and you're curious about diving deeper, you will love The Collective, our monthly membership program. Think of this as the group of girlfriends you always wish you had, plus the coaching and support to step into the woman you're meant to be and the life and success you've been dreaming of. It includes powerful courses, live connection and coaching calls, and a community of like-minded women around the world, plus lots of other incredible bonuses. Every 8 to 10 weeks, we begin a new season focused on a topic like self-love, stepping into your bigger purpose, breaking through fear and self-doubt, or growing your success with more ease and flow. You can join the monthly membership for just $197 or sign up for the year and get an all-access course pass and enjoy huge savings on your annual membership. Learn more at wayofthemuse.com/collective.
That's our episode for today, but let's not make it the end of our love story. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and think of some women in your life you'd love to share it with. And if you want to learn more about our events and programs, visit wayofthemuse.com. See you next time.